You are muted.
I was so.
Oh, why are you still muted? Why can't I hear you? There we go.
Oh, I'm definitely not muted anymore. Now it's
Okay, I just
your
wasn't
fault,
picking
honey.
up. Oh, okay, that was weird.
Yeah, okay. No, yeah.
There we go.
That's great because I was like, oh, I executed everything. I hit all the buttons right. I did all the timing. I don't have my Stream Deck set up yet, so I'm still clicking on the mouse on here, and I'm like, cool, I did it, and I'm muted. I've done that a lot today.
It's the last episode of the 200, so we had to start off on a true audio face note of fucking up the intro.
It's an odd number episode, so I'm hosting, which also means something odd's going to happen in the intro. Hello, humans. This is Audio Face, and we're talk about the music news and music culture that mostly matters. The music's gone. I'm Dan.
I'm Sean.
Still, nothing's going to beat that time where I like even more confidently started the episode and said, "I'm Sean."
Dude, I will
with a
die
straight
when that
face, like I
happens.
wasn't even trying, like full sobriety. Nothing was wrong with me.
Nothing was wrong. No Hennessy in the veins. No problems. Nothing. Just I'm Sean. I was like, I guess I'm Dan today. All right.
Maybe my defense, I didn't have that much sleep. On this fine episode, we have Beyonce's new album. We have Faye Webster's recently released album, and Yard Axe, also a recently released album. Not sure if you may have heard about the Beyonce thing, but that was one of those that DJ from New York who's like, if you're planning on releasing on this day, push it back. Push it back. Yeah, no.
Oh my god, I gotta with Otis. I gotta watch that again. It's just so great.
You can sing.
If you're the liquor store, rob the liquor store.
Their money is your money.
The sound effects are my favorite thing with that. Just the multiple explosions and then the rewinding sound all the time. It's like Jim Rome's Schmacky Schmacka Helicopter, but for hip hop. Like it's just great. They don't make them like this anymore.
Funk Master Flex. That's right.
Funk Master Flex. Thank you. There we go.
Legendary moments in rap music, a genre that I don't recognize anymore. We have a little bit of news as well. We're actually going to be starting with our news stories. You know what, Sean? I'm hosting, so I'm going to give you some of the official nominating powers here. That's Easter, so I hope you get the Pope's gear that I sent you in the mail. Pope of the rat beefs, I guess.
I knew what you thought. As you hear that, I just hear Sam Cedar in my head every time. It's like, we can't make that joke. I can
power steering fault. Power steering fault. But no, last week we talked about Drake. We talked about, we're waiting for Drake and potentially J. Cole's response to Kendrick Lamar's verse on Like That of the future Metro Boomin album. That song came out like last Friday. We surprisingly on Sunday did not. We recorded that podcast, but Drake had not had any sort of response. I was expecting Monday morning something happens, but Monday morning happened, and then Tuesday morning happened, and then Thursday morning happened, and now Sunday evening is here again. It's been a full more than a week, no response from Drake, except he's made allusions to this in at least 5 Instagram captions. He's posted about it in at least 3 Instagram stories. He's ranted 1 or at least 2 times during his live concerts and show about how, there are vague haters out there, but it's okay because I'm 10 toes down and I'm having fun or whatever, so it's all good. And his dad reposted something about the beef, and Drake reposted that. Or his dad made his own caption, rather, about the beef, and Drake reposted that. None of these things, it's okay. I know a lot of folks are just casually listening to music. They're just getting into, being a music, enjoyer and understanding that. But folks might notice that none of those things are a response. None of those things that I just listed are a response track. None of these things involve Drake getting his sorry Toronto ass to the booth and actually figuring it out. We can't even put the rap beef intro into this right now because as it stands, kind of once again, just like Kendrick Lamar's Control verse, there's very few responses to it, as though Kendrick is just sitting there on the top, someone fight me, and
then no one's going to fight. He's just sitting there with nunchucks spinning, just waiting.
Kendrick is at the Dino, like the Sinclair Dino Care Station on Compton and Greenleaf, sitting in the back of a truck, just like spinning a gun. Like he is trying to crash out right now. He wants the smoke so badly.
He's literally he's Mando. Take you in warm. I can take you in cold. No emotion, nothing, just a helmet.
And so there's a lot of ways to look at this. Arguably, this is, if I'm putting my somewhat Drake bias aside, the only winning move for him is not to play. So this is the best thing he could possibly do, I think, because if he responds to the rap beef, we all know, like, it's a target-rich environment for anything that Kendrick or anyone really rap beefing with Drake can do. That's why Pusha T, who's a relatively unknown rapper compared to Kendrick or Drake, was able to beat him in that rap beef, so much so that he like tarred the sonic rings out of him. He like clubbed the spinal fluid out of Drake with that beef.
Right.
But still no. And my last thing is that it's, people are saying for some reason, oh, this makes Kendrick look weird. It looks bad. Like, why is he trying to fight for no reason? I go straight back. Like, everyone's saying that. I go straight back to that Mos Def interview from the beginning of the year.
Absolutely.
Drake is not hip hop.
And then, in the words of Kendrick, heavy is the head that chose to wear the crown.
Yeah, Kendrick was crowned by a lot of rappers. It's like, the future early in 2010. We have that bonus episode for members that folks can check out.
Mhm.
By the way, I think I'm going to re-release, temporarily re-release the Doom bonus episode that we did.
Nice.
Almost like 300 episodes ago. Jesus. Sorry, 200 episodes ago, rather. But rap beef is good for the game. It shows, what rappers are on top and on the best. It's a friendly sparring match, if you will. Like, that's all it has to be. Drake running away from it is him making it more than it actually is. I don't think, and no one has really analyzed this, going that like Kendrick has really legitimate beef with J. Cole or Drake. It's like, no, this is rap. We're all trying to prove ourselves to be number one. I have played my hand. I'm closing now. I'm checking now. Your turn. So, Sean, now that you are on this Easter Sunday, something's rising, and it's my semi at the hopes that Drake may be response to this, but I think a nomination is in order. Would you like to do the honors?
Always. It's a long time coming. Yearly tradition. Absolutely. Drake is nominated hereby thenceforth.
Aubrey Drake Graham.
October's very own. Blackface Toronto Maple Leafs very own. Yeah. Aubrey Drake Graham is nominated for the Timothy Daniel Poole Noted Little Bitch Award.
Two-time. Aubrey Drake Graham for the Notable Bitch. This
can't be more than 4 times.
This is, he's been nominated for so many times.
But this is the biggest bitch move to me. It's like, it's my thing is like, you've had a week to respond, and it shouldn't take you a week to respond, right? Like, everyone's like, oh, it's Drizzy, like he's got bars, he's got banners, he's got this and that, and
I guess his ghostwriters are on strike. Pay your workers.
Seriously, like, that's the thing. It's like, fake gangster mentality, right? Like, that's my thing, right? Like, you got guys, Mos Def, Kendrick, 21, like, Metro, guys who've been in the streets, right? Like, they grew up in the fucking gutter. Like, that's what they know, right? But then Drake poses and morphs into all these different characters and stuff. So when he's actually supposed to have like a gangster mentality, or when I gets called out, like, straight up, he's just sitting there, thumb up his ass, not doing anything about it, because at the end of the day, that he's not tough enough to handle it.
And I somewhat disagree with that. Like, cause like, I don't even think you need all of that. Like, there's a lot of, suburban rappers. Like for every Drake, you've got your Childish Gambino, you've got your Tyler the
Well,
Creator, who like all have their like
but
experiences,
they're
whatever,
still
right? But like
gangster though. Like they'll still throw it
as
down.
far as a mentality, right? As far as a
That's what I'm
mindset, as far
saying.
as being able to hold one's own in rap, like to be specific, yeah, because there's a
Yeah.
whole thing about how 21 Savage, is he a gangster? Is he British? Like
I
there's a
mean,
lot
you could
of
be British gangster too, so
the Young Thug situation. There's the fine lines of like how much gangster foolery can you talk about in court and like blurring the lines between what's true and what's not. There is a representative who's trying to make
oh
it so you can't
yeah.
do RICO cases like that in Florida. I mean, in Georgia, rather. I
In
forgot the
Georgia.
story, but good on that guy. But this is just about the game of rap. This is just, sometimes you have this in punk and a couple other genres. You would get this in Britpop sometimes too, where you'd have friendly rivalries, sometimes not so friendly rivalries. But this is just the sport. This is just the love of the game. In basketball, yeah, there are people who, you want to be seen as a good team player and a good team member. But when you're in that upper echelon, yes, of course, you're trying to prove that you're number one, whether it's in field goals, whether it's in blocking, like whatever you want to do, whether it's in
Yeah.
championship rings, you want to prove yourself to be not just among the best, but the best, if you are lucky enough to be even among the best. So it's
It's been a long time coming.
it's better for Drake strategically and logically to not respond. But that's only because it's his least worst option. All the other options are like responding is even worse. But at least if he were to respond at this point, it would be a little bit more respectful to the genre that, kind of getting to what you were saying earlier, Drake has culture vultured in his own way, like for a long time now. Drake, noted a little bitch award. Super last thing.
Oh, you're lagging a little bit on my end. I don't know if it might be me, but it's been like robot video game voice for like a good 30, 40 seconds right now.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's looking fine on my end.
Okay.
If
Good,
you're
good,
in
good.
chat, let me know how things are going.
Yeah,
Good to
let
see
me
you
know how
discuss
that
with
is.
Rogan. I can go from
I'm
there.
plugged in, so I don't know.
Same. We're both plugged in. We have the same internet, so it's like I don't expect it to happen with you.
Yeah.
Occasionally, my like audio will get out of sync, and I just like reload the page, but usually that's going good. Anyways, my last thing is that
Go ahead.
this could be a long year. This could be a long year, but I have this could be one of those years where Noted Little Bitch is actually pretty easy, because
Last year was hard.
I can't imagine, like I really can't imagine or fathom someone beating Drake this year
Oh,
for the
I
Noted Little
can't
Bitch
either.
award.
Like that's just.
And if
I mean,
so,
it's
in advance, I'm going to be laughing at this person very hard because they would have done the impossible. But in advance, before it gets serious, I'm so sorry for whatever's going on in your life that makes you more embarrassed than Drake.
and the thing is like his response in the show and the concerts and stuff. It's like, to me, that's where it's really embarrassing. His Instagram posts and everything else. It's like, okay, well, obviously you got fucking called out, right? Obviously and you're responding to it, but you're doing it in the saddest, bitchiest little way. And it's like, you're a rapper. That is what you do. You're supposed to be one of the best, if not the best. So show what you got. And it's been over a week. It's like, tail
Bitch me.
between your legs, man. Tail
Bitch me.
between your legs.
Moving on. Lizzo reportedly quitting music. Now, Lizzo, I've always said I've had mixed feelings on this, and like as the stories we're doing is, on the one hand, I think Lizzo is extremely talented, very successful, well respected for what she's been, doing for the past several years, all in the face of a lot of sexism, racism,
Yeah.
fat phobia that's been going on, not just in music media, but like Fox News will randomly take opportunities to like take shots at Lizzo, the not quite manosphere, but even like the Gamergate-esque like people in the right wing like media space, like people who should be talking about like boring things like politics or which 1940s German symbols they want to get tattooed. Like these are the things they usually talk about, but they would usually make Lizzo their punching bag all the time. That said, she also got a lot of heat for her dance crew coming out and reporting bad behavior, sexual harassment,
A
overall.
bunch of badness. Yeah.
Most ironically, I think her like body shaming members of her own staff,
Yeah.
which is just like
The
ironic.
hypocrisy of that's just awful.
Yeah, like to be able to, I understand, like, I mean, on the one hand, dealing with all that pressure and all that going on, like, people vent that out and steam that out in a bunch of different ways. But it's still like no excuse. You shouldn't do that with the people, especially what you're being attacked for, with the
Hmm.
people who you're working for. It's just like a a level of self-awareness that it didn't seem that she was having. Anyways, Lizzo posted on social media on Instagram. I'm getting tired of putting up with being dragged by everyone in my life and on the internet. All I want is to make music and to make people happy and help the world be a little bit better than how I found it. But I'm starting to feel like the world doesn't want me in it. I'm constantly up against lies, being told about me for clout and views, being the butt of the joke every single time because of how I look, my character, being picked apart by people who don't know me and disrespecting my name. I didn't sign up for this shit. I quit. And then the peace symbol. I get all of those, especially how it's going with Lizzo in her, like, perspective of being in the limelight. So I feel for her in that way. I'm not even trying to be like, oh, well, this is what you get for mistreating other people. I think that there's a cycle there that I think you can see without apologizing or making excuses for her behavior. But yeah, I can, especially with the way social media is right now, even when she was just coming out, I think it's much worse, where it's much more vitriolic. It's much more
Right.
what lies can Aiden Ross or, Kai Cenat or academics or whatever random like Twitch streamer now can make up about artists and celebrities' lives, and how much can they rage farm and like clout trap over that. And then they just do this with celebrities' careers, and I feel little bit less for celebrities who are in the limelight, like this is the thing you do, but there's no need to be like harsh and mean about it either. So yeah, it's just a shame. I hope she doesn't really quit. I'm sure this is like a lot of artists just vent and like say these things all the time. Um, Most of the time they never quit, or at least they
Yeah.
do their work in a different way. And then this is a world where Lizzo could easily just like throw on a doom mask and just she can go anonymous. She can still create music and do these things, but maybe it's not while being such a forward in front
Like, yeah, you
of the
don't
limelight
have to
person.
be such an outspoken player if you don't want to be, right? Like, you can be more in the limelight and still release music and everything. You don't always need to be the spokesperson or whatnot. Even if you get attacked, you don't necessarily have to respond and stuff too. So, like, that's one option. So, but I mean, the thing that stains it for me with Lizzo is especially just the story that came out last year of how she treated her crew and everything and all of this stuff. It's just too hypocritical for me for all the stuff that she's been saying for years about people saying about her. It's like, well, then why did you treat others the way that you've been yelling at people to treat you? Like, if you're not going to do that and then respect your own workers and everything, then it's like, well, then what are we doing here? Then how do you expect for the shoe to be on the other foot in that regard? So, yeah, I mean, and she's not going to quit. She's going to release
Yeah,
something. It's just
yeah.
that's how it is. You know that.
I can only hope for like on a human level that she started to work through like
Oh, for sure.
I hope she got like a therapist or something like that, like a bare minimum. I think do that, seclude yourself a little bit, work
Yeah,
on your music in general. Like we always recommend all artists do, whether it's the burnout from touring, the burnout from just being a public person making music for a while. Just take a break, uh travel the world a little bit, and that will help your musical influence as well,
for sure.
and hopefully round people out better as a person. Last story before we get into pure music, just pure music. But this one was really too good to pass up here. Um, so this is from AFP reported this, French press agency. And this is a study that was published in Nature magazine, I believe, not Scientific Reports rather, but is around there. And so this study looked at lyrics over the past 40 years in the English language. They looked at pop songs, they looked at country songs, they looked at R&B, they looked at rap from 1980 to 2020. So they used Bob Dylan, who rose to fame in the 60s, had a Nobel Prize in Literature as sort of like a base standpoint. Like
All
definitely not
right.
like definitely not the most like G-rated artist. I guess you got to pick like your zero somewhere, like your point zero in a statistical kind of way. But
His lyrics are fine. Hate
also,
his
yeah,
voice,
also
but
not
thank
like
you.
also not trapping. I mean, I would have loved if Curtis Mayfield's Pusher Man was used as zero, because I think that's like the first trap song ever made. And you could like, they kind of had to censor that on Soul Train, but they kind of got around a lot of things because he was really chill with that. Curtis Mayfield crawled so Future could walk, honestly. But anyways, the main conclusion out of the study was that lyrics have become angrier, more, self-centered, repetitive, and yeah, self-obsessed over the past 40 years. Um Across all genres, lyrics have a tendency to become more simple and more repetitive. Zangerly, who is one of the people who worked in the study, said, um, and then another quote here. Let's see. The results also confirmed previous research, which showed a decrease in positive, joyful lyrics over time and a rise in those that express anger, disgust, or sadness. Lyrics have also become much more self-obsessed, with words such as me or mine being used as well. Um, like at least more often. The number of repeated lines in rap rose most in rap over the decades, adding that it obviously had the most repeated lines to begin with, just the way the songs are generally constructed, and then
I
obviously a little
mean,
more
one
rhythmic.
song comes to mind, Cash In, Cash Out.
Well, rap has become more angry than the other genres. And let's see, the researchers also investigated which songs the fans of different genres looked up on Genius. So it looks like people aren't looking into rock songs as much as like lyrics, which could maybe hint at, in my opinion, might be a delayed statistical look at our rock is dead trend, because that's turning around.
It's
And
definitely turning around.
maybe that's not uh perfectly visualized in how many people are searching up lyrics on Genius, but
Right.
just the body of work that's happened on rock and indie that we've been talking about on Audio Face for a long time, especially in the past couple 3 years. We're going to do our state of music conversation next week. Finally, you just couldn't tie Beyonce in this at the same time, but new dead genre just dropped. That's all I'm going to say there. It's not rock. It's
New
not indie by
challenger
any means of that.
approaches.
Yeah. Not even. It's like Ice Climbers. It's barely a challenger.
Ice climbers. Damn.
Teasing our arbitrary scale just a little bit. But yeah, I kind of talked. I gave a lot of context there, but the overall thought is that, the cranks and the Luddites and Sean who complain about lyrics getting, and have been since 2017 rather, about lyrics getting a lot more vapid, less, you know, meaning behind them, very repetitive. These are things that Sean and I have been saying for a long time, to the point where we start to sound repetitive. But no, in reality, there's now some data to show. So
Yeah.
Sean, please don't wave your cock out on stream. I know you're like, this is a victory lap for you, but we have some TOS issues.
Sips water. Yeah, I mean, this is why, like, example, right? 2 years ago, this is why, to me, the undisputed album of the year is Mr. Morale, the Big Steppers from Kendrick Lamar, because lyrically and everything, it was in it. I mean, this will get into our rap is dead conversation next week, which is great. Gonna tease that a little bit more, right? Like the lyricism and stuff of that record, especially tracks like Crown, Auntie Diaries, so on and so forth, right? They just, the amount of depth and everything that was in that is beautiful. And that's what makes a record, right? It's production, the quality, it's musicianship, artistry, and then lyricism. But the latter is very, and I've been very hypercritical of that a lot of times, just stating how they're really not lyrically dense anymore, where it's just, I get in, it's like a pop song or whatever, and it's just very bland. Um, and then it makes me really disappointed, because it might be beautifully made and produced, but then the lyrics are just left there as almost as an afterthought and stuff. And but that's why, like, the albums that we tend to really gravitate towards and that I really enjoy are the ones that are poetry, right? They're the ones that they make art within art. and a lot of that is through lyricism and stuff. Unless you're Sigaros and you play 8D chess and make up your own made up language called Hopelandic, and you're like, lyrics, I don't have any lyrics, it's just sounds, and you're just like, fuck everyone, and he's like, make up your own words. It's like, hey, can't recognize game, right? But like with rap and pop especially, it's so bland and repetitive. It's like, I've heard this song 1,000 times already, right? Or like what we've been really getting annoyed with the neo-pop and stuff, the amount of introspective records that we've got in the past 5 years, and some of them are so bland, where you get to lyricism of, you're like, dude, we literally heard this over and over again.
Yeah,
There
it used
are
to be the
obviously
thing.
exceptions,
It used to be the
but
thing we complained about Taylor Swift was like, oh, all these
absolutely.
songs are like, one-dimensional love songs. Like not only have I heard like this story from this artist about an ex or a relationship happening like this, I'm starting to be the person who's like, wow, I've been your friend for like 5 years and all of your relationships seem to be having like the same cyclical pattern. Maybe see a therapist. Like,
Right,
it's
but she did the 180 and then released the past couple records, which I thought were fantastic lyrically and
yeah,
everything.
and
And
to be clear, I didn't mean to like point at Taylor Swift, but I was saying like that was the example and like she
th-
is now turned. But
yeah,
like I think you could now say the same starting about Ariana Grande, who I think only until recently was in that same bucket
yep.
of writing songs and lyrics, just like the same subject matter. And I knew I have a feeling I wasn't being too curmudgeonly because you're getting artists like
Oh,
Olivia
this is the album I
Rodrigo.
was thinking about. Kalani was the really bad fucking neo pop record. It was good until it wasn't, and it was never good. That
Yeah,
record was so fucking bland for
that
somebody who's
was
supposed to be.
disappointing because it had a lot of potential.
It had a ton of potential, but the lyricism of that record was just so flat and bland, and just that to me is like the go-to record of bland neo pop records. Like that started it really. So then there was a couple after that in 2021, 22 that just were, I'm like, I've heard this already.
And
Yeah.
not to delve into our rap conversation next week, but yeah, rap has always had, much like dance music. I think if you had to do like, okay, which genre of music has the most repetitive lyrics, I think dance and rap will be up there as like number one or two.
Absolutely.
Uh, and that's not saying anything bad about it. That's just like kind of how the genre works. So like putting that aside and flagging that, you still have this issue, especially with rap music, where as we're starting to the mainstream of rap music, first of all, there is no like when we're talking about Kendrick Lamar and Drake and J. Cole, we're talking about an era of rap that is over. We're talking about an era of rap that is kind of washed. I mean, all these artists are still creating music, and a lot of it's some of their best music recently, and a lot of them are like, selling very well. But technically, like our quote unquote age of this current age of rap music that we should be in right now is like Travis Scott, maybe Young Thug, maybe Playboy Cardi, maybe like if I'm trying to think of like the newer big three, um, you know, let's throw them in for the case of sake of argument, Young Boy and BA, whatever. Like, no, but none of these artists are anywhere near the level of rap
Uzi
greats in
and a
the
bunch of
past.
other guys, right?
Yeah,
It's not.
these folks haven't developed J. Cole to some extent, but like Kendrick and Drake have developed full brands and careers out of rap. They have followed the Jay-Z, Kanye kind of track, and they have transcended rap, and they are lifestyle brands within themselves. No other rapper is like that right now. And not only that, because that's like the bravado and everything. I'm getting a little bit off track here, but like the lyricism, especially. This is now a world where even as reviewers, we've admitted, oh, the lyrics don't really matter. It's meant to be like the vibe and how it sounds
Yeah,
and
right.
what it makes, like, especially with Future,
A
like how
visceral
it sounds
reaction.
rhythmically. But again, like we're the year's biggest sort of like new artist, maybe right now, like quote unquote new, who's like getting the biggest attention in rap for a moment is like Yeet. I'm like, is this your king? Yeet?
Yeet.
you,
Yeah.
you mean that I'm supposed to like go back and compare the feeling of Good Kid, Mad City
To
to
Richmond.
Yeet? to Irvine's finest? Are you kidding me? Like, so again, there's always great, interesting things happening in every single genre. Rap is no different right now. We're going to be talking about that this year, and especially in our state of music conversation next week. But this is this is one of the many nails in the coffin that I was doing preparing for the state of music conversation a little bit this week, where I was like, yo, once again we're ahead of the game, but we gotta say it right now, it's down horrendous.
Yeah.
And I've got even much more to talk about like live shows and sales and performances of rap, but that's in next week's conversation because obviously we can go on too long for this. What we do need to talk about right now actually is the moment you've all been waiting for. This is the first album review. This is Cowboy Carter by Beyoncé. It is 27 songs, an hour and 18 minutes long. And it is considered to be like truly an act 2 type of piece to Renaissance. I think there's going to be 3 acts and whatever is going on. But
So
Beyonce's
that means
Renaissance
is there going to be another horse then? Can it be pointing
yes.
can it be pointing in a different direction at least?
This is the BoJack series. I would kind of like 4 so I could get a Demon Days cover out of it. Like like that would be really nice.
All right, I can kind of go hard.
Yeah. And if we can allow any artist to make a long, extremely conceptual, genre bending record, I think Beyonce can be one of them that gets a pass here too.
Yeah.
I think I actually want to let you. I'm really curious to hear what you think about it because one thing you said when 16 Carriages and Texas Hold'em came out as singles, everyone was reacting and saying like, "Oh, this is a pretty interesting, significant country pivot for Beyonce," and you're immediately like, "Not really." And I think you kind of caught it on the nose because country inspired, yes, paying homage to country and Americana and folk like style of music from the United States, past, present, and future. Yes. Is this a country record? Absolutely not. Like
No,
this record
it is
starts
not a
with
country record.
this record starts with like some twang and some interesting stuff, and then it ends with like the B-sides to Renaissance. So I'm not sure if I can tell you that this is a country record, but it's a very, very interesting is very an understatement for this record. So what do you think?
I'm just gonna go immediately to the second track because she covered Blackbird by the Beatles, which is one of my favorite Beatles songs ever made. And I just wish you could have seen my reaction from like American Requiem, which I was like, I thought it was like a decent intro track to the record and get like an
Outro
idea
track.
for the.
More on that later.
You're right. Uh, it's funny. Like it's a good intro, like to get you in the idea of kind of the conception of it and everything, and then
you need to kind of like cool dip your way into like, okay, you just heard, you may have preconceptions of Beyonce from like the Lemonade era or before, and then you may have just heard Renaissance and you're like, okay, she's in her dance music era. You kind of need a cold plunge like to be like, okay, I'm now Beyonce, I'm now going to be reaching into this style of music as like a base, as a starting point for this album.
Right, but then again, like then it gets the second track is Blackbird, which is and like a pretty decent cover of it because it stays pretty true to the original version because the original version is just acoustic guitar and then Paul McCartney's voice and that's it. And it's beautiful and it's one of my favorite Beatles songs on the White Album. But I was just completely thrown off when I heard that come on. I was like, what the fuck? Okay. I wasn't expecting that, but here we are. At first, I really didn't like it because I was like just so thrown off guard. I was like, I'm not a fan. Second listen through, I appreciate it. And then I'm like, okay, it kind of fits with the theme and I like it because it's, genre bending is the idea, right? And it's not like, I mean, not to toot my own horn, right? But I did catch it on the nose with tracks like 16 Carriages, which I actually really enjoy. I think it's a good third track, and I think it's a good thing if you're like, what does the album sound like? Well, it's kind of like this, but a lot more than just this, right? And you have like paying homage to a lot of different Americana sounds, a lot of different pop sounds that you've had throughout the years, right? You've had more modern country because it's not even doing like my favorite country, which is like 60s, 70s, Johnny Cash and Co. Like that's like actual country.
And really fast, Luddite 11 in chat is saying, I'm not trying to pull the I'm old and I know what it sounded like in the 80s and 90s card, referring to country music. So like
80s, 90s country goes hard.
Yeah, he also said, while those sounds aren't country, it's modern pop country at best. So definitely, like, you're in good company, regardless of your age. I think Sean agrees with you very much. I'm much more of a, I'm much more of like a country, like, What is it? I'm just traveling. I'm visiting. I'm just kind of figuring this
You
out
just
and
work
learning for
here.
myself. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Dan just works here. Um, what's really interesting for me for this record is like the collaborations, right? You have a little Smoke Hour interlude of Willie Nelson, which I actually really like as an
I,
interlude.
I want to, before you go in there, because
Yeah, go ahead.
with Blackbird and the collaborations, you have Tanner Adele, Brittany Spencer, Tiara Kennedy, Raina Roberts, and these are some of the more interesting, black faces in country music that
For
you're
sure.
seeing right now. Yeah, and so a lot of them, if you're following country music and you're particularly following like black country music artists or folks who are taking influences from country and doing their own thing, like I've seen country trap kind of rise up and it goes kind of hard actually. I've seen, like a lot of other different things, like other styles and takes on this genre. It's starting to get to the point where like you don't have to subcategorize country as its own thing, because maybe you could call it part of rock, but really no, it's got its own thing going on here. But yeah, you've got really thoughtful, almost like passing the torch sort of feelings. Like I had a visceral like I love listening to music response. Similarly, when we got to Jolene, because they have the Dolly
Jolene,
P,
yeah.
you have the Dolly P intro, like
Intro
interlude
to
to
then the
that.
cover.
Yeah, and this has been a thing where Dolly Parton has said in the past if she wants someone to cover one of her songs, it would be Beyonce. So this is like a nice kind of
So
full
just
circle
I thought
moment.
that yeah, that was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a good cover too. And that's the thing
It's
that
not only a good cover, like it fully changes the tone of the song. Like
Mhm.
it is very similar and goes with it, but it's definitely a Beyonce take on it. And I was like, it, I got emotional listening to it for the first time. So I'm like, this is the most beautiful aspect of music. Not necessarily the song itself, but that someone like Dolly Parton and Beyonce can share a tradition and you can actually see it being moved forward. Like this is the best of what music can accomplish, I think. When you're crossing genres and blending genres and really taking two folks from very different life experiences and uniting them literally in a life experience of a song. Like that's the most beautiful stuff that can happen in music to me.
absolutely. And it's like to me it's cool because it's like you get the blessing of the original artist and you do a good job of it as well. Because that's the thing. It's like the first thing for me, like when I listen to Blackbird, I was like, I don't know, like that's really out of left field. I'm not a big fan of it. But then in the context of the whole record, and even like the end of the record, kind of skipping way ahead when it gets more to like the dancey stuff and everything, I was like, conceptually, it makes sense. Now I kind of understand of what she was doing, but it pays homage in a good way because I feel like there's a lot of covers that go on and they're not done right. It's very, very tricky for an artist to do a good job of it. But then for the original artist to actually say, hey, like I want you to do it, and then also say, hey, this because I remember I was talking to a couple of Beyonce fans and they were saying that Dolly Parton really liked it and everything and had her blessing through it, which I thought was really fucking cool.
Yeah,
So,
recorded an intro for it.
yep.
Let her do the cover, and then did another song later in the album, Tyrant, with Dolly Parton featuring on it too. So full blessing. Willie Nelson both like in a song and also doing interludes. And then you have some really nice newer spins to it. You have Shabuzi in here. You also have Post Malone and Miley Cyrus, which
Yep.
I did not think I was going to, I thought Miley Cyrus less so because she has that background. Post Malone, I didn't think was the weirdest piece in here, but definitely I was like, this could very much not go well. And both of them like sang their hearts out. They were like, "Oh, I'm on a
Well,
Beyonce track. I'm gonna do
like
it well."
I know you're a fucking certified Post Malone hater, which I understand. Um,
Eh,
like, eh, I don't know. This guy said, eh.
it's just I'm also a Post Malone hater. I'm a Post Malone. I'm a Post Malone hater in the same way, like I every morning I wake up and I clock into the hater building because being a hater on the internet's my job, right?
Fair play, right? But the thing is I actually like that collab because he fits on this record. Because
Honestly, more than
with
a lot of his rap songs, but
oh,
yes.
absolutely. Well, to me, Post
Yeah, like
Malone is
Post
better
Malone,
when he
Mr. Beer
does
Bongs and
like
Mr. Beer Bongs and
country.
Bentleys is way better here, yes.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like he has a lot of influences, a lot of different musical influences. Again, his favorite band are fucking Fleet Foxes, the weird little indie group. That's one of my favorite bands too. So he has a lot of Americana, a lot of folk influences and stuff. And with Levi's Jeans, I thought it was a fantastic pairing on it because that's some of his favorite stuff is to do that. I don't think he's very good when he gets more into the trappy stuff personally, but when he does more stuff like more pop, more folk sounding, more Americana sounding, that's where he really shines. And then in collabs, that's where I like it to be. And in the context of the record, I was like, that was good.
Uh, I just got a flashback. It's like, you remember what a time it was when 21 Savage and Post Malone's Rockstar was like the top song out there? It's like,
Oh
times
man,
change, values don't.
Jesus, man, 2018, that was a year of music. That
Why you
was
got a 12 car garage? You only got 6 cars. um so back to this record, and I gotta say here, like, I'm not gonna trigger you by comparing this to certain albums that will just like cause this to be a 30-year podcast, but I
oh,
think I'm developing the hot take for this. I'm not gonna say it, but I am gonna talk about the qualities of this. This record start like, I think I would treat this as a concept record, even more so
absolutely.
than Renaissance is, even though it's all a big concept, it's a big series acts. In fact, a lot of the
Is this
times you
fucking
see
Dune and Dune Messiah?
a lot of the times you see eyes in this album, you see the twos like in American Requiem,
Two Hands
in
to Heaven
Riverdance. Yeah, it's meant to signify this act 2 thing,
is
alligator tears. But this record, like, it goes through, I feel like it has 4 or 5 mini records within it, and the interludes do a
absolutely.
really good job of taking you through. And I think it starts off more country influenced, and then through each little like mini phase of it, it's
It has
almost
its
like,
own face.
yeah, honestly, this does the faces thing like a country mile better than humans. No pun intended. But like, compared to that slapped together elevator going up shit versus like here you actually have real
I
progress in the
switched
songs,
my
because
robot off.
the album starts with like, okay, Beyonce is doing her take on country music that definitely has a lot of pop inspired and rock inspired into it, and she's bringing her style but also showing respect to new musicians, old musicians, etc. And then as you keep going, by the time you get to like Smoke Hour and Texas Hold'em, you get that Sean going, okay, it's country inspired, but I definitely wouldn't call this country music completely, and there's a lot more going on here. You get down to, yeah, Bodyguard, Jolene, and you see that it's
Yep.
very much not like that. And then you get to some of my favorite parts here. I can honestly, the middle parts, Smoke Hour 2, just fun. I wouldn't skip any of these songs. I think they're good to be on here, even though it's a 27 song long project. It gets to be a lot. But when you get to the last part, like around
Oh,
19 Linda Mardell show, 20 Ya Ya, it's like, oh, she's doing Motown, which is a real surprise to me, my mom being the big Temptations head, but also
that goes
that's a
hard.
really smart callback because the
Absolutely.
connections between Motown and country have always been there. And for people who have
Always.
listened to it have always been there. And so to bring that within the context of this record and then continue that in through Oh Louisiana, Desert Eagle, Riverdance, which, you know, Riverdance and Hands to Heaven blend into each other like dance tracks. And that's how you get to the more dancier part of the record that is still incorporating elements of twang that you might hear from a country or like a Motown type thing. It's incorporating some of the themes that you would hear from a lot of other country music like influenced songs, and the songs you heard in the earlier part of the album. But now you're definitely hearing a lot more of that, like Lemonade era Beyonce coming
Right.
out in tracks like Riverdance. And so, but that part is not as visible in the top of the record, where you feel like, oh, this is just Bayou Beyonce over here, and we're just going to be sitting through like 27 records of some acoustic songs. Like, no, no, no,
No,
no,
this
no,
is
no,
not
no,
some
no.
flute songs. This is not just, all right, hey, I made some flute songs. I really want to make a rap album, but here you go. No, it's a concept record. And to me, it's like what actually I would have really liked is kind of going back to earlier. I was talking about Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, how he split it, like Kendrick split it up as like two parts, right? Like this is Mr. Morale and this is the Big Steppers. I wish he almost did that with this record, like at least in like the album version like you see on Spotify and Apple Music, etc., where they're kind of put together in that, because I felt like it would have done it justice. And I feel like this is one of the very, very fucking few records that I would actually like that. Most of the time, I don't like that. I don't think it fits. But in the way, the amount of variety and range that this record has, it deserves it. It deserves it for the art and to really help people who are more like just pop, maybe pop fans, and don't like really listen to concept records that much, so they might not get it, and they might miss out on a lot of the stuff, is what I'm kind of trying to allude to, right? It's like, right, like we're fucking music nerds, right? Like that's our shit. We like going into it, like, right,
300
I'll
episodes and we're music perverts, actually.
straight purpose. Like I'll talk for 27 hours on Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino, why it's my favorite concept record ever made, right? Like it's shit like that. But people who
And this
listen
is
to,
just like while we're out. Like this is even not recording a podcast. Like this is
oh
just
yeah,
this is
absolutely. I mean,
outside unprompted at a coffee shop.
just ask the Mrs. Vanessa, like, it's hilarious because I'm like, hey, we're gonna go do a day trip to San Diego. I'm like, we'll leave at 4 a.m. so we get there fast, and I'll let you sleep. And she goes, no, you're not gonna let me sleep because you're gonna put on some fucking weird, like crazy record, and you're just gonna talk about it for 2 hours. And I'm like,
That meme,
so we're
of
gonna,
Hal, that meme of Hal from
this is,
Malcolm in the Middle, who's like, once you start listening to music, there's no turning back.
I'll just be like, so today up is going to be Chill Wave. We're going to listen to Talamonk by Tori and Juan, Why That Changed My Life Forever. But it's not like, it's right. Like we understand and we really get like the whole concept record aspect and everything, but because it's such a long record, right? And in the day and age, especially in this decade where shorter records are better in a way where a lot of people can consume it more because there's just so much to listen to, there's loads to listen to. There's just too much to consume in not enough time. But this album deserves a sit down, right? And a fucking nice little cup of espresso. Like, just it deserves that. And I feel like if you split it up a little bit better, people would be able to say, okay, this is this, this is this, this is this, this is this. So then they can get an idea of it, instead of where I feel like a lot of people are taking it for face value and saying, hey, oh, this is her. That's hilarious. Me too. I'm fucking addicted to really good espresso.
Mike Boyfriend Mayer, also an espresso lover. Not to derail you.
Or a lot of people just take it for face value, like, oh, this is her country record. I'm like, dude, it's so much more than that, and it's not even really country at that point. And that's what I was saying
It's
at the
not
beginning,
splitting hairs.
a couple of weeks ago, of like when we first listened to her singles. I was like, okay, it's gonna be inspired, but that's not gonna be it, because I know this is supposed to be the second act, and she's too good of an artist to just do a whole country pivot after Renaissance. She has to tie it in somehow, and she does at the end. Because actually, my favorite song on here is "Two Hands to Heaven." I think that track at the end of bringing it in all of this just beautiful record together at the end, and bring and the influences from Renaissance to then kind of encapsulate what the whole idea of these past two records are together. Ideas. It's brilliant. It's brilliant, and it's really shows her artistry onto it and everything. And this is a record that took me 3 listens to really understand. First face value, first listen, I was like, this is a lot. It's all over the place. I don't, but I literally had to sit down yesterday and just sit in the garage by myself for like an hour and a half, just drinking coffee. Seriously, it'd be like, I gotta fucking dive into this because there's just too much.
Your car's motor wasn't on this entire time.
Well, plug-in hybrid, baby. So
no, I was like, I'm imagining in my brain, because I'm a very visual. Like, you're sitting in your garage for an hour and a half. I'm like, Sean, call me if you need to talk, dude.
No, dude. I mean, I have my home gym, so remember, I'm just sitting there.
I know.
I'm sitting on my bench. Like,
not
I
everyone
finished
uses
the
their
bike
garage
ride.
for
I'm just
their
sitting
cars,
there,
yes.
like getting cooled down, and I like listened to one song, and then I was like, oh yeah, we're just this is what we're doing. All right.
To your point, earlier about like you wish it was broken up a little bit, I was gonna say this is one benefit of maybe buying this record on vinyl, except I didn't include this in the rundown, but apparently the vinyl version of Cowboy Carter is missing songs. Want to know what songs it's missing?
What?
20 down. It's missing 19 down.
Who the fuck? How did they miss? What? Who the
they're
hell
gonna get
pressed it?
they're gonna get the Chinese executive firing once you find
Is
out how
this
that
like the
happened.
time when there was that
They're
building
gonna end up like
fire?
the Boeing whistleblower. Just like,
Bus for
hashtag no
life, baby.
politics.
Bus for life, baby. Even on my Sims, I fly bus.
The rapper Cannabis. Can I bus? No. So yeah, it should be good. Like I think it would really benefit from having, not to make it like a legal document, but Act 2, Part 1, subsection 3, like whatever. That would really help, I think, because you do this 27 songs as we start to kind of conclude here. This 27 songs is well delivered. I think it's well executed, and there isn't really much I would change about it. What is a lot to say about an album this long in
I
2024, considering who
wouldn't
we are.
change a thing other than just that. And that's
Yeah.
just a very small me being a fucking music pervert.
On all, yeah, on
About it.
all of our favorite like albums, we end up like nitpicking a lot of different things here. I will leave you with, because I know we already talked about this album for 30 minutes, and this is putting us in extreme danger, but I'm just gonna drop it. The first time, so I was listening to this record for the first time with one of my friends, shout out Leslie, and she was like, her first reaction was like, "Can you believe there are sickos who listen to an album for the first time on shuffle?" Because like, if you do that with this record, we're not friends. We're so not friends.
Someone needs to listen. Someone needs to listen to Audio Face. That's all I'm gonna say to that. Okay.
Yeah. Second time, third time, that's totally fine. And I think like Sean, you often do the shuffle listen.
Yep.
But yeah, she was like, "Oh wow, I can't believe there are sickos who would ever listen to." And I'm like, my heart's a flutter. But anyways, I was like, "Oh wow, this is really." I knew it was a good album when my first listen, right? And I knew partially because it was so long, but also partially because of like the good product it was. She's even calling back in some of the interludes to being like, "Genre, what is genre? I don't care." And that's kind of like when the album starts to get up to this almost manic state where it's combining all of Beyonce's influences over the years in that last like 8 tracks or so. Rip vinyl users. But no, on second listen, on third listen, this is in my echelon. In fact, yeah, I think like of this decade of we're in it right now, I'm always trying to find like, okay, what is the next album I can crown as like well produced, well executed, and thoughtful and honoring just the genre of music as Daft Punk's Random Access Memories. And for this decade, production wise, except the Apple Music version sounding a little bit different than the Spotify version, but I think
Always. I'm telling
execution,
you, it's always like that.
the execution, honoring the genre, honoring music in general, a capital A album. This is the best, I think, like, produced by a really popular artist album of this decade, in my opinion, so far. You gotta marinate on that. You gotta marinate on that. I think,
honestly, because the thing is with this decade has been very interesting because of COVID, and a lot of artists made their COVID records and stuff. Some memorable, some very forgettable. I feel like you have something going on in that regard to where, right, with Ram, you had paying homage to a lot of different artists and a very big established group with that fuck right. Same thing now with Beyonce with Cowboy Carter, a big, huge pop star, but paying homage and making a beautiful concept record.
and mind you, most of the other pop stars are like, we're not in the era of Prince anymore, right? Most of the other pop stars are just making iterative trash of their old music. Like Drake is cynic. Like the only way I can respect Drake is if you just tell me that he's cynical, and then I get it, right? Because like, why would I change the 11 herbs and spices? People keep buying this shit, so I get that. But for someone at that level, which we should expect, that should be the standard of artists at that level to be pushing music forward from their stature. I think Kendrick Lamar does that, but at the end of the day, that was a rap record. It wasn't trying to be anything different than a rap record, but it was a damn good rap record. She's rapping on this. She's doing country on this. She's got Dolly Parton on this, and she's doing dance records on it. And it's all cohesive and it makes sense. And it's fairly well produced. I think it could be a little bit better. It sounded pretty weird in my car on some songs. It sounded better in my headphones, which was kind of weird. So I think I give Daft Punk the production credits for that, and these are different decades, so I'm not comparing them. But I
Yeah.
think this is the one to beat.
The ones
Currently.
absolutely. And to me, like early in
Better
the
than
decade,
Renaissance too.
way better than Renaissance. Like hands down better than Renaissance.
Just because
So
Renaissance is well executed, but this is just accomplishing it's
just
accomplishing much of what Renaissance did, plus advanced deluxe.
absolutely. And to me, it's almost I wouldn't even necessarily say a return to form, right? Because I think Renaissance is a good album on its own, but right, like example, you have just the amount of like beautiful records that Beyonce has made for the past 20 years plus, right? Like this to me is a certified beautiful record, top to bottom, right? That
Like 2014, her self-titled was considered to be like this like legendary thing. I think even
absolutely. I mean,
Lemonade was
Lemonade right
dropped.
after that too is also consider that, right? But those two records, especially self-titled, um it's like that's a certified beautiful pop record, right? And this to me is an evolution of an artist really expanding their horizons and trying to make something, have an idea for something crazy, right? It's three records, four records long, right? But you'll see what happens to it, and it's like, all right, I get it, right? And those are and she executed it just on the dot. Again, this is to me the tranquility based hotel casino that I've been wanting for since that record came out, right? I've been wanting another beautiful concept record and an artist to step out of their comfort zone that has been established, and I haven't had that until this. So fantastic.
Wow, that take was a little less hot than I thought. Then I'm glad we're in the same ballpark of agreement.
Yeah, because it's to me, it's what stands out like immediately. Like this and Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers are to me are like the two albums that immediately stand out in the 2020s.
Like it
Like
transcends music to the point where like this is
absolutely,
contemporary art.
absolutely. Like to me, it's like, hey, what are your like example when we do, Jesus, 20 to 20s.
50 of the 20s.
50 to 20s. Sorry, yeah. 50 to 20s, right? Like those two immediately, like no questions asked, right? They're gonna
Top
be here
5.
somewhere. Like top 5. Like slap them there. We'll figure it out later. But top 5 immediately. Like do not pass go, do not collect $200. Yeah. Great.
Arbitrary scale. We do arbitrary. This review was as long as it needed to be. This is a big record.
This is why we didn't do the music discussion. That's why we had to put it off for next week because I'm like, this is gonna take too long.
Yeah, I was like,
oh, again, now that dog just ain't gonna hunt.
Last thing, love this podcast because in 2016 and 2014, Beyonce was a big thing, and a lot of people love Beyonce, and I was like, okay, she's a pop star. She's been making, good pop music. She's an excellent performer. She does all of her one work. She seems to be like, I get it. She's likable. And, I think those are good records, and I've gotten more of an appreciation for them in retrospect. But Renaissance, Cowboy Carter are all objectively, substantially better records than anything she's done in her career beforehand. And again, she's been doing this since 2003. She is the biggest like pop artist in the world. She does not need to be like, it's why I love Rosalia so much. It's like, you're a big like superstar pop artist. You don't need to be getting this nerdy about music and like making all of your songs a love letter to the practice of music itself.
Right.
She's going above and beyond, and she was already above and beyond. So like, really great. Arbitrary scale. We do arbitrary scales every week on Audio Faces. Our review is our review. We're not going to give you a letter ranking system or a number ranking system for one of the best albums of the decade. We're going to tell you how we feel about it using an arbitrary scale that we change every single week because that's what it deserves, I guess. Sometimes I say it and I feel really confident about it. This time I'm like, I'm not sure if this letter rankings or this ranking system makes sense, but I'm glad we're not giving it a letter or number grade. This week, it's going to be fighting game levels or stages. So any fighting game, any map or stage or whatever you want to do, all fair game here, all times, wherever you want to go. For me, this is my Final Destination Super Smash Brothers Melee.
Damn.
Just flat. You play on Battlefield in Super Smash Brothers when you and your friends are getting home from school and you're having a fun time. You play Final Destination Assault Fights.
You really do.
Kendrick Lamar's on Final Destination ready to crash out with Drake and J. Cole.
This is um what's the latest Smash Brothers? Why am I blanking? Is it Brawl
Ultimate.
still? Or? No, Ultimate. Brawl was on the Wii. Sorry.
Yeah. And
Ultimate.
there's a Wii
It's
U
just
one, but we don't talk about that.
we don't talk about that one. Is this Super Smash Brothers Ultimate when everybody is my favorite character, King Dedede, and it's just fucking balls being thrown at everywhere on it. Like that's what it is. It's my favorite fight because I'm not a big fighting game guy actually. And that like your typical ones, right? Your Street Fighters and stuff. Like I always get my ass kicked unless I play as King fucking Dedede in Smash Brothers. It's the only fighting game I got a chance because that stupid fat penguin just is OP. Beautiful.
I'm trying to think of the map. Oh, Dreamland. I'm trying to think of the map in Smash Brothers that most goes to Kirby's thing.
Yeah,
I guess it'd probably be that. Although I do like all the Meta Knight maps.
Meta
Knight goes pretty hard. Yeah.
There's like Meta goes hard.
Yeah.
It's also not Ice Climbers.
Or Rip Ice. I absolutely. Let me phrase this very carefully. I show no mercy to my niece and nephew when we're playing Smash Brothers or Mario Kart because I don't believe in that. I want them to actually be better than me. So
you gotta kick their ass.
Oh, absolutely. No,
you gotta get and watch them.
We do random because I'm like, if I play as my actual characters, you're never gonna like this game. So I always play as random, and I get like just random characters, or whatever. This time I got Rob, which is a little bit of a problem with them. London was playing as Isabelle from Animal Crossing, and Gus was playing as Ice Climbers.
Oh, this is how controllers and TVs get broken.
I'm like, I'm never gonna be the good uncle in their lives anymore. Like, this is gonna ruin it. This is gonna be the core memory that turns one of them into the Joker. Let's do some other work, shall we? Let's do our next album review, Underdressed at the Symphony by Faye Webster. It is 10 songs, 36 minutes long. Let's call that 37. Let me get this one up there. There we go. And Faye Webster has been again, well, this is weird here. Nashville country kind of influenced, but very pop star sort of artist. Kind of came into the scene with Run and Tell and then her self-titled record in 2013 and 2017 respectively. And then since then has been sort of interesting, kind of bounced around this, a little bit of indie, a little bit of rock, a lot of Americana influence, putting it all together, doing gangbusters somehow and being really popular. So God bless. Underdressed the Symphony came out earlier this month rather, in March. Was doing it the very last hours we have in March. Because everyone knows if you're releasing the same week as Beyonce, in the words of Funk Flex, push it back. Push it back. Push it back.
Anybody who's releasing an album, push it back.
At least 2 months. Favor. So it's actually good because this has been a pretty critically acclaimed record for the month of March. And we missed it earlier because both these next two records came out on the 1st of March, which was my super birthday spectacular, and I don't remember much of it, except the meat coma. So you get onto this, and not many features. There's just one. The fourth song, Lego Ring, featuring Lil Yachty.
Lil Yachty on his pivot, man.
Lil Yachty's just doing side missions. He got himself some of that. He found himself some of that acid in the South, and he's just like, I'm Tame Impala now.
Like that's what he's doing, right? I miss Zamboni Little Boat. Like that's my favorite Little Boat.
That was his like Tyler the Creator doing Odd Future. That was the immature version of him. Now he's refined. Now he's
Is he on his earthquake hit now? That's what he's doing.
Now he carries his Stratocaster wherever he goes. He like likes matcha teas. Like that kind of thing.
Lil Yachty drinking matcha lattes.
He's in his like soft boy fuckboy era. Like that is what we're doing right now. But yeah, no, I think this record is interesting. It's not bad. And, I'm trying to wash over the fact that we reviewed Beyonce because it's just a terrible, like, tough act to follow. But I think especially in the context of our lyrics are getting worse study that we just did, there were a lot of moments in this record that I felt like the choruses or the motifs were just repeated a lot, a lot, a lot, to the point where, especially on my second listen, when I was getting to the point in the song where feeling good today or thinking about you or but whatever the titles were of the tracks, it just kept getting repeated on and on and on near the end of the record. I would just skip. I'd be like, okay, it's just like 40 more seconds of this like repeating the same shit joint. So I'm just gonna move forward in it. So you have some good ideas in here, and it's a good execution of poppy country type stuff, but definitely like no major standout things. Done a little bit worse by the fact that I think there could have been a lot more lyrical variety.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was right. Like the sound of the record is she steps back and really lets the music kind of play out, which is a blessing and a curse because it depends at that point on the listener and their personal tastes.
Mm.
I don't mind that, right? Like I can dive into some of that and really like a step back, kind of like a war on drugs style, where you like have some longer songs and some really big breaks in between. And if the band is good enough and can hold on its own, I think you
And
can
I
get
can
some
be in the
good.
mood for
And
that too.
oh yeah, absolutely. And like you've like some war on drugs records and other records that I've shown you too that are like that. And I feel like on this record, there's a couple good songs that do that. The intro, like my biggest gripe about this, I like thinking about you. I liked it. I like the track. I just don't wouldn't put it as the first one to start off with that because it's a little too long to start it off and a little bit too steppy backish, if that's so, like a little too much empty room feeling to start it off for the record. I would have put it somewhere else. You don't need to cut it because I really like the track, but to start it off, just not my favorite. That's my biggest complaint of it. I can get on board and kind of agree a little bit with the lyricism, but I feel like with indie you can get away with it depending on what the idea of the record is and how it sounds tonally in a way. Um, depending naturally on the artist, because some cannot definitely do it. But with this, it's short enough to not overstay its welcome in it, but there are periods where it feels a little bit more bland in a way, right? Like you kind of get in the middle with Lifetime, a track that I like, but you have like He Loves Me, yeah, an eBay purchase history, and then you're just like, okay, this is hipster title fucking central right now. Um yeah. But
eBay purchase history featuring Les Sens. Not even Toro Ma, Les Sens.
oh man, listens, that takes me back. You got fucking Michael on that. That's a joint. That's anyway. And then also you got the time. So like,
Which I thought was a
favorite.
decent album ending track. And
I
I
really liked.
actually did like, I know Sean, you'll maybe appreciate the concept or like the thought behind this record. This is not a concept record, but the idea
Oh,
behind this was Faye Webster often goes to symphonies and orchestras, and she currently lives in Atlanta right now. And she goes there on a whim. She buys the tickets day of. And so everyone else is like, pre-planned this, or they have the
mhm.
seasonal, thing at whatever like orchestra hall they've got down in Atlanta. And she's like, no, I always go underdressed at the symphony because I always do it on a whim. I always go alone. And it's something she likes about like being in community with a bunch of people, but also there being kind of invisible, quote unquote, and just enjoying symphonic composures and classical music. And I don't get any of that sound from, what you
It
get in this
hasn't. Yeah,
record.
that's like I don't get any of the sounds either, but I thought that that's actually kind of cool that you do that as a
Yeah.
classical music head. I fucking
As,
that I kind of goes hard.
as far as the story of the album, though, like that part underdressed the symphony, other than the title track, the penultimate
That's the only
track
thing
in
that
the
has to
end,
do with it.
that's the only thing that has to do with it. It's just vibes. Like it's just okay. The vibe of hipster style musician girl with these influences in folk and country music, but also pop and making that work. Um, and that's just the vibe of it. It's generally that, and then you have underdressed the symphony, which really gets at that. But it's just like, oh, this is the vibe of this kind of person who would do this kind of thing.
Right.
Aren't I quirky? Maybe I'm being too harsh with it, but I really wish it were a bit
I
More
don't think it's a
ambitious?
bad record. I think it's a decent record. I think it's, but in the sound and stuff that we've had from indie and stuff this year and even last year, where we had some pretty good records, it feels a little bit more bland, a little bit more flat in a way, right? And I mean, that's kind of by design, in the way of just kind of stepping back with the vocals, not making it very lyrically dense, letting more of the production and the band play with it. And I feel like you can do good with that. Like Dive does that a lot, and I feel like some of their songs are great with it. But with this, it's like I like it, but it's not my favorite either. So it's a solid record, but it's nothing that's gonna blow your socks off or anything either. So
Fully agreed. Arbitrary scale, do arbitrary scales every week on Audio Face, because our review is our review. Rather than give you a letter ranking system or a number ranking system, we will tell you how we feel about the album using a ranking system that we change every single episode. This time it's going to be fighting game stages. And I am going to go, since I'm like a little bit more in the fighting game mindset right now, I'm going to go with, I was in a Soul Calibur 4, not Soul Calibur 5. So I'm just going to go like all Soul Calibur stages in general. I'm going to do Unknown Forest, which was one of the viola stages. It's just, uh, it's a forest. It's flat. You've got a lot of tree cover. There's some sun there. It's a nice vibe. You'll enjoy it. It's a little bit forgettable, but it's also, where you get stuff done right there. Supposed to be inspired by an ancient citadel with players being thrown against the trees. So,
all right.
that.
Because our podcast, right? I'm gonna say that this is definitely like one of the, I can't remember it that well, but this is definitely one of the bosses from House of the Dead 4. I remember playing.
That's such a throwback. Oh my god.
Such a throwback. Super random, but
It's been a minute. I'm like, what are you gonna name Luigi's Mansion? Because that used to be a Smash map. It went real. It was kind of annoying. It was really good. Yeah.
Forgot about that.
Oh wow, that's annoying. The thing is happening again where like you're lagging out, like your sound is not
Oh, really?
matching. Oh, it's fixed. That's great.
Okay.
We love it. We love it. Okay. And
Built
now
Ford tough, baby.
our last album of the week that we are reviewing here, as I get the right show's banners up, is Where's My Utopia by Yard Act. 11 songs, 43 minutes long. And a Yard Act are this, post-punk indie sort of project that I really enjoyed from our 2020 review, The Overload. I think they've been making music a little bit before that, but that was the
Overload's a great
product.
album. It was a great
Yeah,
record.
that was the product that I really got a lot of like enjoyment from. I'm not always in the mood for post-punk, but when I am, I prefer Dos Equis. No, but like, Yard Act, God, what was that? There was a project called Nine. Oh, by Salt. That's right.
Salt. Oh, yes. Salt.
And it was one of those annoying releases because, like, it was 9. It was called Nine. It was 9 songs, and it was only available on streaming for 99 days. So you can't find it on streaming anymore. You have to like go to Bandcamp or whatever.
Wait,
But
really?
like, yeah, I'm pretty sure they took it down. I hope
Fucking
it's back.
hipsters.
But yeah, no, I don't see it anymore. Sadly.
God damn it. That was a great record.
So yeah, I like getting into that stuff from time to time. And I think Black Country New Road was one of like the kind of pieces to come out of this group a little bit. And so, this sound, let's say. But here's Yard Act with Where's My Utopia? And it's funny, it's cheeky as always. It's got some really interesting sounds and ideas within it. It's blending, ideas from different genres. There's parts of rap, there's parts of, I wouldn't quite say country, but definitely rap and punk and alternative. It's pulling from those types of things, executing it in a really good job. I love song 2, We Make Hits, because it reminds me of a lot of bands end up doing this, especially when they've been making music for a while and they are responding to that pressure of, let's make a song that we know will do well, that isn't really creative or pushing us or is somehow not fully living up to the standards of how we want to portray ourselves as a band. I think of songs like LCD Sound Systems You Wanted a Hit. Um, there's a number of different like Radiohead have done this in spirit and otherwise, and a lot of other different tracks they've done. But We Make Hits is a very fun, like on the nose, like, hey, fuck you, I'm not gonna make the song you want me to. In fact, I will like make this song as like sort of proof of that. I don't know if you know, but Blur's song 2 was basically that. Damon was like, I don't care about this song. I just know it will like perform well in debate. And to this day, Damon Albarn's like biggest dream at that time was making it big in America, like a lot of British acts really want to do that. And the only song people knew Damon for in America was a song without a title. Song 2. And then they finally only started to know Damon Albarn through Gorillaz, a band where he is not in the in front. So
his face isn't even there. It's great.
This is the one time I may say free Damon Albarn, but really free Damon Albarn from himself. So no.
Damon's
no
a
bars there.
That's what he needs to do. It's a good.
Damon Albarn has Indian friends now.
Jesus. Well, so the Overload was their debut record. So this is their second record, The Curse, as we like to say on here. And I feel like it's a decent follow-up record. I feel like it doesn't have the same kind of oomph that the Overload had, where that was just such a good record, especially in 2022. Where we had a lot of good releases in that year as well. But I felt like in indie, especially, kind of sit on its own when the genre was. That was really alien, especially then, and now it's kind of turning around.
Rock was dying. It was the indie sort of influences that were bubbling in the surface that, you know, wasn't knocking anything out of the park yet, but that's where the interesting stuff was happening in that subgenre.
Absolutely, right. And Yard Act were one of those that really had that with that. And with Where's My Utopia, it's interesting because you get like different influences from like some LCD Sound System stuff that I've heard, right? Like with the Undertow, you can kind of get that. You have maybe some Beck influences and different, like a lot of stuff that I grew up listening to and still listen to all to this day, because I like to listen to the same stuff over and over again because, right, we're music perverts. That's what we do.
Wait, can you repeat that? Some internet thing happened and like we lost like one sentence of what you said.
Oh, rip. Oh, I was just saying, like, it has some Beck influences, and you know, those are artists I grew up listening to and still listen to this day because, you know, we're music perverts. Because I can listen to the same thing over and over again. And with this record, it's interesting because I believe they had a producer that produced for Gorillaz on this record, I would like to say. I have to double check that, but I feel like I heard that somewhere because I looked at who did the production for it, because it reminded me a lot of Beck and LCD Sound System with it, especially Undertow Dream Job. And then I was like, oh, with Gorillaz, interesting. But with this, like, it's a good enough, it's a good step in the direction, like it's to step far enough away from the Overload. But to me, it kind of gets a little bit flat in the middle of Fizzy Fish and Petroleum, which I think are decent tracks on their own. But like those two, I wasn't a super big fan of, compared to the more of the beginning where you have Down the Stream, Undertow, Dream Job, which I think are fantastic tracks. And then you kind of pick it back up with Grifter's Grief and Blackpool Illumination towards the end. I feel like it ends pretty well. And especially like with Grifter's Grief, I really like the influences on that, where you're getting more of like the indie pop sounds and stuff and kind of venturing out, and the album needed that at that point. I feel like it's a decent album. I feel like it might be one of those that grow on me after a while. Especially it's hard because with this week, with all the releases and stuff, there's a lot to listen to. But I feel like it's a good second record, especially them trying to establish how they want to be known as a group and how they want to be known for their sound and everything. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I don't think it's anything like knocking it out of the park, kind of like what we just talked about with Uninterested Symphony. But for Yard Act, I think it's a good record.
I had to dig into, I don't know what's happening to my internet today, but I had to dig into
Rip.
the Overload. Apparently James Smith, the singer, is an Audio Face listener, because he says what was it? I just had it right here. Yes, he says he uses the third Gorillaz album, Plastic Beach, as a source for how to sculpt and structure a coherent EP, saying, quote, I always thought that was a really realized record. Just everything about the artwork and where it took you to. This island made entirely of litter in the ocean. The sound of the horns ship as you arrive, and you can hear the bay. The fact that all the guest stars feel like they're a part of it. You're greeted by Kano and Bashi on white flag, and the line about these are the rules of Plastic Beach. It's such an ensemble cast, and everyone's in it. Everyone goes on this journey. That was a template.
I like.
There we go. There we go. That's what we're talking about.
That right there is a good influence. And the thing is right, you can hear it in the record. Like you can hear it throughout this, like the ideas and the different sounds and stuff that you get with it, right? Like you can hear Gorillaz influences, right? You can hear back LCD sound system influences. And it's interesting for that, which I feel like there's one thing to like rip completely off, like which has been happening in indie, right? And just be like, oh, I get influence from the 90s and just make a fucking grunge record. It's like, all right, everybody, like too many people have been doing that. But with this is the right amount of getting influence from people that you've been listening to and like really admire, and records and projects that you really admire, and then getting ideas from that and then making it within your own group and your own project and staying true to yourselves and stuff and not just ripping it off. So yeah, overall pretty happy with the record.
Yeah, there is thoughtful lyrics and thinking on here. There was, I forget what song. It's like Down by the Stream or The Undertow or something that goes on this like really long, extended sort of like stream of consciousness thought thing about like, you know,
I think it's Black
existentialism.
Illuminations.
That could be as well. It happened a couple of different times in this record, but I think it was, internet issues again. We should probably wrap up then. But like you're saying with A Vineyard for the North, incredible closing track. Also, I love that. I essentially, you mentioned the second album, the Curse, because I don't think this is as, I don't like this as much as the Overload, but it's not far behind. I just like it very differently. I think these are different.
They're very different records. That's why I said it's going to take me a couple listens and stuff to really let it marinate, especially in the context of when I listened to it. I wasn't able to listen to it before because I didn't realize that was released. I thought it was actually releasing in April, so that was my fault. And then when I saw it for us, I was like, oh shit. And then in the context of Beyoncé releasing everything else, like that, which also took a lot of time to listen to. This is one of those where like I gotta sit down and really get through it as well on like a fourth and fifth listen and really make sure that like, okay, cool. I can get involved with this.
Yes. Arbitrary scale. We do arbitrary scales every week on All Your Face because our review is our review. Letter ranking systems, number ranking systems, be damned. This is just how we feel about a record. This time we're going to be using fighting games and fighting game maps, and this is going to be Ring of Destiny from Street Fighter V. It's kind of like the Pokemon trainer map. It's like a big tournament like style arena. It's set in the United States of America, so it's a lot of lights and it's like kind of wild. But yeah, it's like a UFC tournament type thing. This is just, you know, nice, clean, not pushing any boundaries, but does the job.
I like it. This is definitely the fucking Wii trainer map on Smash Brothers Brawl.
With the Wii Fit.
The Wii Fit, yeah, the Wii Fit. That's, I could think of the name of it, but I just, yeah, the Wii Fit map on Brawl. That's what this is.
I think they just like, is the Wii, I'm trying to think, does the Wii Fit trainer exist in Ultimate?
I don't know. It might.
Wii Fit trainer Ultimate, because that's a character I definitely never. Oh no, she does. Well, he does. You can play as a male or female Wii Fit trainer, but yeah, She does.
Dude,
That's
oh,
very
well, you
funny.
gotta fuck up your nieces and nephews with the Wii trainer. Damn, they're not
I'm just
ready.
I'm just gonna throw the Wii Fit like board at them or whatever. They're like, "What is that?" I'm like, you don't even know. You had to
He's
be
like, you
there.
don't even know, man. You don't even
We
know.
would like to play.
That's
That's what, God, Nintendo used to be good. Okay. Well, that's tomorrow. That is it for us
and that's
today.
it for today.
This has been Audio Face. What does it mean to play us out? You can support Audio Face by becoming a Syndicate 23 member at syndicate23.co. You'll get all the bonus episodes, all the released episodes first that we're doing. Next episode 300. 300. We're going to be doing the state of
300 of these
music.
bad
We're going
boys.
to be doing
Oh,
whatever. Honestly, more than 300 because we've done bonus episodes that don't count towards the number amount. So we've been out here.
we're probably at like 320 at this point.
No, yeah, we're about. Last I did the official count, we would have hit 300 episodes somewhere around 260, 270.
Jesus Christ.
So, so much content. Thank you very much for listening and watching on the live stream. For the folks who are on X and Twitter, I don't believe you're there, but if you're there, cool. To all the folks who are watching on Twitch, appreciate you there. Thank you for watching. Luddite 11 also welcome to the club, saying that Plastic Beach was super dope. Like, yeah, there's
Favorite Girls album, best Girls album.
and it wasn't I remember not us having Audio Face because that would have probably been illegal, but we were talking about.
Jesus Christ, thank God we didn't do that then.
You think we don't make them like anymore, but get like. Okay, listen, it would be really funny if somehow next week. Dear God, it would be so funny if Drake comes out with his response next week and we could bring back No Chill Island. For 300, just what?
Oh man,
One
oh
more, God.
man,
Just one more No Chill Island, then we're done for good.
oh man, just one more hit, just one more heist. This is it. There's one more,
one more heist. Yeah. But yeah, for all that stuff, become a Syndicate 23 member to see why we don't make them like that anymore. But yeah, I remember saying like, oh, Plastic Beach had to grow up on me because it was so different from Demon Days. And I loved Demon Days so much. It was my entire personality at that point. But yeah, listening to Plastic Beach and growing with that record made me fall in love with concept albums, made me fall in love with the process of music. And especially with those Bobby Womack features, the important practice of giving back to the folks who like helped make your music possible. Man, I'm going to be bawling the day Dolly Parton passes and I listen to those Beyoncé songs for the first time. That's going to be rough. But it's amazing that that's there. Same thing like, but Giorgio Moroder, like when all that stuff happens, it's glad that this is memorialized in music. So not just people from the 70s and 80s who were there, but people from the 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s can go, oh, I know me some Giorgio Moroder. And that's the power of Audio Face. And that's the power of just listening and enjoying music. Thank you very much for watching. We will be back next week with, an ill-advised 300th episode.
Please join us. 300 is going to be great.
Cheers.